a receiver in the draft. Obviously, they didn't take one early, but they could trade for one. Will Fuller is an interesting name to watch. The Houston Texans, big playmaker and a pending free agent. Remains to be seen if he is in the future plans for the Texans or if they'd be willing to part ways with him for, let's say, a high pick or maybe even a mid pick and some others. Obviously, the price is going to be high for a big-time player, but this is something, from what I understand, the Packers have had interest in for some time, actually since the summer. So that is a big name to watch as we get closer to 4 p.m. Dwayne Haskins, another one, the former franchise quarterback for the Washington football team. I know that is someone they would potentially consider trading for the right deal. David Njoku for the Browns, another one in that category. We've already had a couple trades over the past several days. Desmond King, the Chargers defensive back, he goes to the Titans. That was one. Quan Alexander, the oft-injured but very talented linebacker for the 49ers, he goes to the Saints to help bolster their defense.
Their defense might need it up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday Night Football after the Tampa Bay Buccaneers escaped with the win over the Giants last night to wrap up Week 8. Thank you so much, Ian. That trade deadline is today at 4 p.m. Eastern. Which players do we have our eyes on throughout the day? We'll tell you who we think.
We will trade, but, I mean, I told you before, I'm not trading for peanuts. You know, if they want to make a substantial offer, then we will consider it.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not trading you Whoppers for a full-size Kit Kat bar. Those are the kind of trades I'm involved in at this time of year. But that trade deadline is 4 p.m. Eastern. Schrags, which player, which team do you have your eyes on? Which means which player or team I need to have my eyes on.
Yeah, so the word out of Houston is that all the receivers are on the block, and they can be had for the right price. And that's Will Fuller, and that's Kenny Stills, and Brandon Cooks, and even Randall Cobb. Is J.J. Watt available? I look at J.J. Watt, and I know everything I've heard out of Houston is he's not tradable. He's the face of the franchise, the whole
the face
deal.
of the city.
J.J. Watt's 31 years old. He's got no more guaranteed money left on his contract. He's got 2 years left on the deal, and this team is going nowhere.
Okay.
If I'm a Packers fan and I'm watching Dalvin Cook run all over, with not having the Wisconsin Badger, J.J. Watt, lining up with Aaron Rodgers not be a nice treat at the midway point of the season? And if you're J.J. Watt, as much as Houston is your identity and you've been the man of the year for the league and you've done so much for that city, if Brady can leave to go to Tampa, J.J. Watt can leave Houston. It's not like he's not going to always be beloved in Houston. I think about it from this point also. Look at the draft picks that the Houston Texans have. Remember the Laramie Tunsil trade last September? They traded away their top 2 picks. They only have 1 third-rounder, 1 fourth-rounder, and then they've got a bunch in the day 3, but like no first, no second-round picks. If you're the Houston Texans and you've got 1 win on the year, you've got Deshaun Watson for the long-term future, wouldn't you like to maybe get a first or second-round draft pick here? Look, J.J. Watt's a great Houston Texan, likely not going anywhere. Everything I've heard is that he's 99% not being traded just because he's too important and the contract's too much. There are so many teams that need defensive help right now, and there are so many ways that this thing can go in the next 7 hours. I would be curious if a team doesn't call up Houston and say, hey, first-round pick, second-round pick, whatever it takes. Is J.J. Watt on the block? And I'd be curious to think J.J. Watt's opinion of maybe going to play for a contender this year.
I would guess he'd be thrilled. He has not done a ton of winning, certainly in the playoffs. And right now, like, the end is near. He's on the back 9. I think he'd be thrilled. I like J.J. Watt to bring up because it's a big name. And I think there's 3 kinds of people right now around the deadline. There's buyers, and there's sellers, and there's the suckers. And sometimes there's a team who's always going to go for a big name because they want to satisfy the fan base. They want to make a big splash. That's why I like JJ. And maybe they might not be getting the player they think they're getting, which is why big-time name you could throw out would maybe be reigning Defensive Player of the Year. I'm fascinated by Stephon Gilmore right now, the Patriots corner.
Really?
There's a lot of chatter about it, which sometimes is smoke. And I don't come from a place of Peter where I have the context on my phone. I come from the stands and what I would like to see. Stephon Gilmore's game is objectively down. Look at all the PFF stuff, all the percentages. He gets a higher percentage completion, longer passes. He's not playing as he would. If you think the Patriots are going to be sellers, there's not really a prettier pony in the stable right now than Stephon Gilmore. And in terms of where you'd like to go, what is a team right now that is really good, that matters, whose defense is really bad, and has a really proud tradition of defensive backs and corners? Seattle. That's where I would put him. If I'm Seattle, I'm like, I don't think we can win a Super Bowl with this defense. I just don't think we can do it. I think we need better corners and better safeties, and we get Jamal back and have Stephon Gilmore, and we are now a Super Bowl team.
Rich contract.
I think New England should sell. I think Stephon Gilmore's best football with him is behind him, and I would love to see somebody like Seattle go out and grab him. The question is he worth it? There's a sucker born every trade deadline.
A lot of money.
Sucker born every trade deadline. I'm looking at the Cincinnati
Mohamed
Bengals.
Sanu, hello.
Hello. Hey. I'm looking at the Cincinnati Bengals, and now you're thinking, well, Ross, we know that Jeremy Ross is one of those guys that...
John Ross.
I'm sorry. John Ross's speech is one of those guys that already asked
All right,
for a trade.
okay.
I'm not talking
I
about
like
him.
this.
I think that ship has sailed. He wants out. He's having healthy scratches right now. When a team healthy scratches you and puts you on the sideline and you're not playing, most likely that's the end. I'm looking at the guy who has been the #1 receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals for a long time. And that's A.J. Green.
Okay.
All right, in the big win over the Titans, you know who led the team in receiving? T. Higgins. You know who was second? Tyler Boyd. You know who was third? Alden Tate. You know who was fourth? A.J. Green with 2 catches.
Is fourth.
Yeah. Okay. So for me, looking at A.J. Green, the situation he's in, and I know there's a top dollar sign on top of his head. I know he still wants to play. He's had a couple games this year where he reminded everybody just how good he is. This is an individual that you can go after. If you're a wide receiving group and you want to match what the Buccaneers are doing by bringing in Antonio Brown, bring in A.J. Green. Because, one, he's going to come in. Now he is healthy for the first time in a long time. But, two, he'll be more motivated than ever. There's nothing like a trade. And I'm talking about trading a superstar. Because regardless of you leaving a situation that you might not be happy in, all players are going to look at it as, you're discarding me like trash. And I got to prove not only to myself, but to the football world that I still got it. A very motivated A.J. Green can help somebody's offense.
I hope so. I want to talk about John Ross, though, for a minute here, because he's a guy we had on our show. I remember that draft, there was no name that we talked about more. The three of you, what I've learned over 4 or 5 years with you, you're obsessed with speed and what speed can do on an offense.
Al Davis.
I want to bring up Ted Ginn. Where was Ted Ginn drafted?
Miami.
Miami. Didn't do much there, right? Didn't make a huge impact, but he went on to really make some game-changing offense-making teams, and with the Saints, with the the Arizona Cardinals, with Carolina. Who else? New Orleans, obviously. You can use Ted Ginn in that blazing speed. Yeah. So just because like John Ross doesn't fit with maybe what the Bengals are doing doesn't mean that John Ross, who was also taken in the first round, can go on to another team. Wouldn't we? Like, if I had my dream scenario, Kyle, I would take John Ross to Aaron Rodgers.
John Ross to Aaron Rodgers. Yeah,
you don't think Aaron Rodgers can make something out of John Ross? I think
yes, I do.
I just love speed. We're all so enamored